welcome everyone, and please feel free to move in if you want to feel more comfortable. The structure. There are 3 learning objectives in Chapter 12 that we're going to cover. Actually, there's 6 or 7, but it's the first 3 that we are focusing on only today. Okay, all clear on that? All right. The first relates to strategy. The second relates to reengineering, and the third relates to the balanced scorecard. Now, there's 3 areas I want you to circle now, because some of you may get confused. There are 3 learning objectives, but there's these 3 other things, and that is the S for strategy, the S for systems thinking, and the M for measurement. We're going to come back to that. Okay? So when I talk about those 3 things, I don't want you to get that confused with the 3 learning objectives in Chapter 12. Okay? So I'm preparing you for that. Let's get moving before I talk too much. Learning objectives, the first 3 learning objectives, that's where we are. The first learning objective is about strategy. And the big idea I want you to think about strategy, or the big word is, I want you to think about customer. Write that word down, customer. The real definition of strategy is, why do customers buy your product? That's it. There's no theoretical term here. At the end of the day is, why do customers buy your product? Do they buy your product because it's cheap? Do they buy a product because high quality? Do they buy the product because it's got a lovely brand name and I can show the world that I've got my Gucci bag, or I've got my iPhone? By the way, my phone's okay. Right? So that's what we mean. And so here are some questions you could ask. Why are we doing this? To help you become, we want firms to become more successful. So what do we mean by success? At the end of the day, success means that you are satisfying some sort of customer demand, whether they're buying your product or buying your service. That's right. If you are able to satisfy customer demands, they will pay for that, then you will make money. Right? So the accounting version of success is, we make money, right? We have profit at the end, right? But the real meaning of success is, how do we generate that profit? And to answer that question, you need to know who the customer is and why they buy your product. Why do they buy your service? Strategy. Every firm has to have a plan that will lead to success. And in some ways, we want to think, okay, once we have that plan, then we can start to think about measurement. Measurement. How do we measure progress towards that success? Okay? So that's the beginning of Chapter 12, when we start to talk about strategy. Okay? So I'm going to show you 2 videos now, and I want you to think about how these factories are making money. Both of them are making money. And I visited them recently, and so let's have a look at them, shall we? Right, this one's making audio products, so it's like a MP3 player that goes in the car dashboard. The one down below, they're making USBs, and they're both making money. So how can they do that? Let me just turn this down a bit. Yes. As you can see, there's a lot of conversation that we have, but I have translators with me. Okay, that's good. All right. So the top one is making car audio products. So that goes in the dashboard. The bottom one is making USBs. Totally different, but they're both making money. They both have a strategy for making money, but the strategy is different. The customers are different. The customers for this product here, who do you think the customers are? Car manufacturers, yes. Okay, this one, they're making 3 million of these USB units every year. Who do you think the customers are for this company? Consumers, clubs, associations, right? They are making these USBs for the gift market. So for example, if you're in a student association and you want to get cheap USBs that you can hand out at an event, then you can contact the factory and they'll make 1,000 of them for you for less than 200 ringgit. Something like that, right? So very cheap, and then you can hand it out. Okay? This company's making money, bucket loads of money. This company's making a lot of money. They both are successful. They have different customers. Which one do you think makes a better quality product? Hands up for the top one. Hands up for the bottom one. You got it right. You see the top one, if they serve a bad quality product, the car manufacturers are going to complain. B2B customers are very demanding. They might even cancel the contract. They may force that company out of business. Here, if a USB fails when you hand it out at an association event, right, you get a free USB. Do you complain? Hands up if you complain. If it doesn't work. Isn't that a perfect business model where you make things that don't work and your customers buy them? Like you, the end customer, do not buy these USBs. The associations, the clubs, okay, buy them to give out as gifts. All right, that's a business model. All right, and so they don't care too much about quality control relative to this company here. All right, so it's worth thinking about. The distinguishing point of strategy, the big question to ask is, who is the customer? Right? Who is the customer? B2B customer, and here we have, it's more of an association, so it's not like B2B, but at the end, it really touches the end consumer, who are really judging the quality. And because B2C, this factory can get away with a lower level of quality control. Wow. Okay, so, going back to chapter 12, chapter 12 introduces you to product differentiation and cost leadership. So does that matter? Yes, these are generic ways of theorizing or compartmentalizing strategy. We may say that a car audio manufacturer is following more differentiation and the USB manufacturer following cost leadership. It's possible. Where would Apple be? Apple. Is Apple top or bottom? Hands up for the top. Hands up for the bottom. Obviously not cost leadership. You don't buy the iPhone to save money. Okay? All right? The big idea of cost leadership is customers will buy your product because they want to save money. The big idea of product differentiation is customers buy your product because there are other features that customers want in that product. Wow, that's it. And then we have a focusing strategy, which is a kind of a hybrid of the first two, and that is where you may focus on a certain segment. These pictures are old, like Olympus was the first to get into a waterproof camera. Now, of course, Hong Kong dollars, some of these prices are much cheaper now, but that might be a focusing area where you want to dominate the waterproof camera market, but not be in other areas. You see what I mean? Because you are focusing here on a particular feature that is waterproof. Okay, so here's the big question. I'll repeat again. Why do customers buy your product or service? To save money, to have good quality service, or do you have a commodity? So most commodities are a cost leadership business. Fast food, people go to the product and pay more, that's differentiation. And of course, you need to think about different industries. So that was the first part of chapter 12, strategy. Your first learning objective is, why do firms succeed? And it all gets back to the customer. So now I'm going to give you another 2 videos, and let's run with these. I'll just turn the volume down so we can have some enjoyment of the visual. But as you can see here, this is Patience, good friend of a factory in China. Here's they make a lot of USB, a lot of headphones, and they don't make headphones, but one of them makes a high end, one makes a low end. Okay, so which one makes the higher end headphone? The one at the top or the one at the bottom? The one at the bottom. This is more the high end ones down here. Okay, because if you want to buy these headphones, you're going to be paying from 18 to 38.50 MOQ. MOQ is minimum order quantity. But if you go here, this headphone here I'm trying on is only $6.50 FOB, $6.50 US dollars. Okay, right? Now, both of these factories are making money, right? They both have a brand, but this is more of a low end, and that is a high end. You could say that this is product differentiation, and you could say that this one's cost leadership, all right? Okay. Now, what I want to do now is show you that when you go to the trade show, you see this here, and you see the different products. What I want to show you now is that it's not that simple, because when you go into the factory, do you think these two factories are the same? Do you think they have the same process? Put your hand up if you think they're the same. Anyone? Put your hand up if you think they're different. Hands up if you'd like to see those two factories, what they're really like. Anyone? Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to go to this factory and we're going to go to this factory. Right? Exact same factory, so you know the final product. So let's go to the factory that make the product to see, is there a difference in how the factories make their product? Let's have a look. Right, so we're at the factory now. So we're going to have a look at the SMT. Obviously, this one here has asked me to dress up, go through a clean room. This is like a telephone booth where they blow air for about 5 seconds and to take all the dust. So you go into another room, there's no dust at all. Okay? I didn't have to do that here. Look, there's the entrance into the factory here. All right? Big difference. Big difference you don't see at the trade show. Big difference you don't see in the final product. Okay, so in order to have a differentiation strategy, it costs a factory a lot of money. Which one do you think is spending more money on their production? The red one, hands up for the red one, hands up for the blue one. Okay, this one, definitely. Actually, this factory, I've been to it twice. On the second time, they said, no video. No video, we've got secrets. I said, I'm the professor, I come to the factory, I only take video. They said, okay, come in with the video, but we'll tell you when you can turn it on and off. I said, that's fine, I'm happy with that, but don't say no video to the professor. All right? Because you students need to see this. I want to bring this to you. And so they allowed me to video this assembly line, but they wouldn't, and notice how the assembly line is set up differently. This is a much more professional approach to setting up the assembly line compared to here. If you study operations management, which is also another course at Monash University, you'll go into more detail about how do we arrange operations. Okay, we don't want to spend too much time on that today, but I just want to show you that in order to have a differentiation strategy, you have to invest a lot of money in your processes to make sure that your product is worthy of being purchased for other than a factor called price. Okay? If you want to make high quality, then your processes need to be of good quality. Okay, so just want you to I just want to show you what does cost leadership and differentiation, what does it look like? So now we get to the part where in the exam, okay, right, alerts go up, exam, you said the exam word, right, and that is, we would like you to know how to draw a customer preference map. How many of you have heard that before? Have you heard of that idea before? Customer preference map. Let me help you. Let me give you a layman's idea of what it means. Basically, it's a map of what customers rate the highest in terms of why they purchase your product. That's all. Whether it's cost, quality, delivery, speed, features, and you just map it, put it on a map. And this is your company. All right, so for Apple, the customer preference map may be very high on quality, okay, very high on brand name, you see, but very low on price, okay, like price is not a factor, you see. Whereas if you look at Xiaomi, okay, Xiaomi phone, okay, one of the largest phone manufacturers in China, the low end, okay. Remember, they only have about 5% profit margin on their phones that they sell, okay, because they're looking at just capturing market. So customers buy a Xiaomi phone, why? Price is very high. So you see, that's what a customer preference map is. So let me show you what Chapter 12 is trying to show to you. You can actually ring up or talk to my friend at UBS, and they actually do analysis of these different phone vendors, and they actually weight them on all these different characteristics to find out, okay, so to what extent is Apple a differentiator compared to, this is quite old, compared to Samsung, compared to HTC, compared to Motorola, you see. Investment banks, analysts, they do something like a customer preference map. Like, that's an actual analysis of the smartphone industry several years ago, and they still do that today. Okay? So what I'm about to show you is a customer preference map. It's not just something that, oh, you've got to remember what Chapter 12 tells you. You need to learn this, and then you can forget it. No. When you go into, if you become an analyst one day, you work for an investment bank, you might be working on a report that actually compares different companies based on why customers buy the product. So this is real information? Yes, I only tell you stuff that's worthwhile learning. All right, so let's have a look at Chapter 12. And here is what a customer preference map looks like for chipset. Now, Chapter 12 introduces chipset as a company that makes semiconductor chips. Okay, they make logic chips. And so what Chapter 12 shows you is that chipset is targeting a certain type of customer, and its major competitor, Visilog, is targeting a different type of customer. So let me ask you, based on that preference map here, now remember, if you have a higher rating on price, that does not mean the product has a higher price. It means customers value price more when they're deciding, should I buy that product? Are you with me here? Okay? All right? So let me ask you the question, is chipset following a cost leadership strategy or more of a differentiation strategy? I'm going to ask you to raise your hands. All right? Put your hand up for cost leadership. Hands up for differentiation. Okay, so we're still trying to figure out why would you, okay, hands up for cost leadership. Who did? Okay, so what was the thing that gave you the idea of cost leadership? Anyone?
Attributable price.
Yeah, okay. Customers are really, they consider price a major factor when they buy from chipset. And anyone for cost differentiation? Differentiation, you're looking for other factors. Maybe you're saying, well, chipset is better on customer service or scalability. Okay, so you could argue that. But definitely cost is dominating. Cost is dominating, all right? So it's possible. Chipset is more of a cost leadership strategy compared to Visilog that is following more of a differentiation strategy, okay? So one thing that you may be asked to do in the exam is an exam question like this that I had in the past. This is a real question in the exam in the past. We may not have much time to look at this, but we give you information here, and then you're required to draw a simple customer preference map for Scott and Normad using the attributes of price, quality, and playback features, and 6 marks, so give them for that. Okay, so what, 6 marks out of 180 minutes? Okay, not much, right? Okay, 10 minutes, you've got 10 minutes to do that. And I think you could do that. Put your hand up if you think that's doable. You can do it, come on. Right? And so normally in the exam I would have a big graph paper and you are required to there'll be 3 items to put in, and then you just graph those two companies based on those three items. Remember, all right, if customers feel that price is the number one reason why they buy the product, then you rank price very, very high. This is an attribute rating. It is not a measure of how high the price is. Okay, that's one area where students make mistakes in the exam. Okay, another area where students make mistakes on this type of question is they do not tell me what do these mean. All right, so you have a little heading here to explain, these are the product attributes. And so you label things. Or students will put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they don't say what it is. Okay, so label, and it's important to have a heading at the top and to label this one and label that one. Okay, so if you're asked to do a graph in the exam like customer preference map, okay, labeling is critical. Okay, don't rush in the exam when it comes to things like this. You know how to do it. You can get 100% right. Why do you want to lose marks just because you forgot to write down what these mean? Okay, I've had many students. They would just they'll graph this, graph that, and 1, 2, 3, or 5. They may not even label this, and I'm thinking, so what does that mean? All right. Yeah, they have the patterns right, but they didn't complete it, so they lost a lot of marks. Okay, so some exam tips. Okay, if you know how to do a question, then do it properly, do it correctly. You can get 100%. Okay. Right. So there's a practice question that you can do. Okay, if we have a break, we can work through that and we have a look at the answer. Okay, and then here's another practice question for the exam. Is Scott's current strategy that of product differentiation or cost leadership? 2 marks. And so what I did when I was designing exams is I would make it very, very clear, one box or another box. Because when I'm teaching some of my staff this, that it's better to design a dichotomous decision into the exam. Because it's so hard to read what students write in English. They'll write a whole sentence for if it's one or the other, and sometimes you don't know what their decision is. So then I designed the exam, so you tick here or tick there, and it's very, very clear. If you tick here and you should have ticked there, wrong. Easy. Okay? So make sure when you give answers in the exam that are a dichotomous decision, okay, make that very clear on its own line if the instructor or the chief examiner hasn't designed it like this. Are you with me here? Don't just write in a scribble. You know the answer, just take the time to make it very clear what that answer is. Are you with me here? All right? That's how you can make sure that there's no wishy-washy grey area about whether you got the marks or not in the exam. Okay? All right. Is this helpful for you? Okay. It applies to all your exams, I think. All right. And then briefly explain your answer, and then you'll say, one is product differentiation because the customers are focusing on the non-price attribute, etc., etc. Are you with me here? Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you have to fill out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And sometimes in accounting, when you're asked to explain things, it's better to make clear statements. If you're asked to make 4 points, then make sure you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't just write a paragraph. Okay? All right? 4 points. Make it, all right? A new line for a new point. Okay. So you probably already know this, but I just want to help you along here. Okay, so there's our learning objective 1, understand customer preference map. Then we decide on a cost leadership strategy. Okay, so Chipset is a cost leader. This is chapter 12 now. And we want to build internal capabilities to achieve cost leadership. We want to build internal capabilities. Remember, you saw those 2 factories, the car audio manufacturer and the USB manufacturer. Well, the capabilities for the USB manufacturers, we just got to make sure we can make millions of these USBs. That's a different capability for the car audio manufacturer, where they need to minimise waste, they need to make sure there's quality control, they need to make sure, you're with me here, all right? So this question here, or this part here, is to make sure that you have some kind of operational strategy to match the overall customer strategy. And now we are coming to learning objective 2, value engineering and process engineering. How are we going on time? It's 2:38. So what we're going to do, we'll have a break in, 10 more minutes, is that good? How are we going there? How's your energy level? Are you still alive? Okay, good. All right. So in 10 minutes, then we have a break. Okay, and so you can relax and everything. So can we give you more 10 minutes? So what we're going to do now is we're going to breach over into re-engineering, the second learning objective, and then I'm going to show you some real videos of factories where I went in and showed them some different areas that they can re-engineer. Because re-engineering is a funny name. People just say, oh, you just need to re-engineer it. Why don't you just say you just need to change something? Why do we have to give a nice fancy word? Engineering, okay? It just means change, all right? Re-engineering means we just got to change something, okay? Because there are different types of engineering, all right? So let's go into, that's where we are now, learning objective 2, okay? So we're going to go to that now, all right? So re-engineering, learning objective 2, and the question is, what is re-engineering? Well, remember, it's about changing the operations in the organisation. Okay, so that could be manufacturing, it could be service. Wow. Okay, so successful re-engineering or successful change, okay, right, could involve changing roles and responsibilities, like firing someone. Or it could be eliminating non-value-added activities and tasks. I don't know, has Pushpa introduced you to those terms of value-added and non-value-added? Yes or no? Have you covered chapter 13 yet? Hands up for yes. Hands up for no. Hands up if you're not sure. Okay, all right. In chapter 13, they talk about this concept of value-added and non-value-added, right? Or successful re-engineering can include using information technology or developing employee skills, like training, okay? So anything that's changing things in the organisation. So learning objective 2 is you need to understand what comprises re-engineering. So what I'm going to show you now is a real factory I visited, and I saw, okay, I want you to pay attention to this video because it goes very fast. I speed it up, okay? But what it shows you is, this is a car audio, they're making the car audio front, right? So this is the car audio factory. Yeah, all right? Okay, so we get to a part in the production line where we see that there's some defects. And so what I do is I point to the defects in the video, and then we go back to areas in the production line where the defect could have occurred. And then I'm making suggestions about why don't you change this, why don't you change that. So let's have a look at the video, shall we? And before we start, the defect is, I don't know if how many of you have got a car? So most cars now you have dashboard, or if you have your own improvised player into the dashboard, they've got a little slot for a little chip memory card you can put in that has all your MP3 songs on. Are you with me here, okay? So what happens is, it got to a stage where you put in that chip and it didn't work. The whole unit it failed to recognise that chip. And so it came out on the QC report. So we go back to find out what mistakes were made in that chip. So let's have a look. Okay. So here we are, we're just going through the production area, and so
QC, yeah?
there's the QC,
Is that correct?
and we see the problems. The failure, every hour. These are failures. That's waste.
Okay, so just say no to that. So just so that the most common quality problem is that this assembly, where you put the actual mini SD card in here, assembly part.
All right, so wait a minute, let me just go back slowly, just stop that for a moment. So we know what the problem is, right? Okay, when you put it in, it's not connecting, it's not working. And so look at all the rejects that they have. It was amazing, I can't believe it. But a lot of factories are in this situation. You go back again.
QC, complete, is that correct or what?
Look at that, look at that. Every time there's a marking here, that is a failure. In other words, it goes in the bin. Okay, we're talking about 20%, it could be 20% of items manufactured is wasted. Okay, like we all talk about sustainability, right? So my job going to these factories is to help them just to minimise these problems. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go back to some of the areas in the production line where it's possible that this failure could have occurred. And so then I'm giving them advice on what.
Okay, so just say no to that. So just so that the most common quality problem is that this assembly, where you put the actual mini SD card in here, assembly part where this is
that's the back of it.
Screwed on, right? So who does that?
So we're checking that part of the assembly with the screwing processes. Now we go to another part.
So we're going up here, and so probably this. Yeah, that's the part. This is very important. Yes.
So what happened? I give them advice that they should put the thing on a cradle when they're screwing, so it doesn't move around. That's what some of the top manufacturers do. So we go to another part of the assembly. We've got this guy here doing soldering, and as he's soldering, notice it's rocking, it's moving around. So I told the owner, look, it's moving, he's trying to solder, it's moving. Okay? No wonder why you're going to have some little quality problems. So I give them advice, just put a little cradle there so it doesn't move. Okay? So,
you know what I mean? So one less thing that's moving. You know, at the moment, three things moving: the solder, the iron, and the thing at the bottom.
Making it more comfortable too. So little things like this, and you probably think, oh, you know, this is so petty. No, it's so real because the whole factory can lose money. Okay, remember, who's the customer? The car audio manufacturers, all right? So they're the ones that are going to drop the contract if it's wrong. So the USB, fine, no problem. Okay, you get your USB, doesn't work, fine. But this is important, all right? So because they're making a product, it's not cost leadership, it's more differentiation, they need to pay more attention to this. Now, reengineering is a minor part of reengineering, is just changing some of these processes so there's less variation on movement. So HTC, when they're doing screwing, they actually made, how many of you know HTC? Okay, when they're doing screwing on their smartphone, so I've done some work with HTC, they actually have a cradle, and then the smartphone fits on the cradle, and so it doesn't move. And then they're screwing. And you're probably asking me, why don't they have robotics? Yes, they have a robotics, but that's in another area. They don't necessarily need to have robotics everywhere to be efficient. Okay, so we're nearly up to our end of 10 minutes. I just want to show you, remember I warned you, if we go to chapter 13, then chapter 13 talks a little bit more detail about 4 areas of engineering. So, I'm just going to, rather than spend all my time going through this, I just want to direct you to page 553. Okay? 1 page. Like, textbook's not perfect, all right? I didn't write it, all right? But, because I've taught out this textbook for a long time, many different editions, I can see the problems that students may have, all right? And so in page 553, they talk about 4 different types of engineering. And so all you need to do today is be aware of what is the radical form of reengineering and what is the subtle form. Like me going in and changing that process in that video, that's just a small form of reengineering. Just a little, you're making little changes here and there. You with me here? But radical, I'm going to show you a video of big differences in reengineering soon, is one of these four. The radical is, let's have a look, design, functional, processing. Okay, number 3, you can circle that. That is your radical engineering. That is changing the whole production line. That is closing the factory and moving to another site. So the assembly line, like most factories in China I go to, they have an assembly line over about 3 different levels. And so it gets to the end, they go into the lift, move it up to the next level and get onto the next assembly line. So radical change is, let's just close the whole thing down and we move to another building where everything is on the one floor. That's radical reengineering. What I showed you before is just a minor, it might be part of changing process improvement, okay? The example I gave you is process improvement. All right, so one video to go out with. I'm going to show you 2 factories, then we have a break, okay? Now, one of these factories is, you could say that they radically re-engineered their operation. Another factory is still in the dark ages, okay? And you can decide, is it the red one or is it the blue one? And before we play the video, what is the product that we are making here? Any idea? Hoverboard, you know. How many of you have written a hoverboard before? Did you fall off?
No.
Cool. I thought about it as a professor, you know, going through that. It'd be awesome in the lecture. But you don't want to fall over. All right, so they're making hoverboards. We all love them. And so, I just want to show you the stark contrast between 2 factories. They're both making the same product. So which one do you think went through radical re-engineering and actually has the perfect design in making hoverboards? Which one is more like a workshop? Hands up for the red one. It's the would be the result of radical re-engineering. Hands up for the red one. Hands up for the blue one. The blue one is more like a workshop. This is your traditional factory in China. The old days. This is your modern factory now. They're both in China, both in Shenzhen. The final product from both of these is the same. Okay, inside is the same. They both have the same type of battery. But the design that goes into this hoverboard inside to make it more fireproof, to make it so it doesn't catch on fire. You know they catch on fire, right? Yeah, 74 fires back in 2016 around the world. Like crazy. And then US government, EU, they actually cancelled. No hoverboards are allowed to be shipped from China into those countries until they created a UL standard, that is Underwriters Laboratory Standard, for how to properly make and control the operations in assembling the hoverboard. This is real stuff, okay? Now, each of these workers here, they only do one part each, and there's about 40 of them, okay? This worker here can do the whole hoverboard by himself. Can make it from scratch. He knows where all the screws are, everything, all the processes. Which worker do you think is smarter? This one here or this one? Hands up for the blue, hands up for the red. The blue one, much smarter, because he needs to know the 100 different processes. Here, each worker only needs to know one process. So when we talk about re-engineering, it's about changing how things are made. All right? So there's a big difference between here. Okay? And we've got our QC man here. I'll show you later. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we'll go to a break, and I just want to give you a 30-second. That's our QC man. All right? He's just testing the hoverboard by just going around. All right? That's it. But they had a separate QC area here. Here's QC, proper QC being tested here on all the hoverboards. Okay? Big difference. Okay? So, what did we cover in the first hour? Number one, strategy. It's all about why does the customer buy your product? That's all. Do they buy it for the price? Do they buy it for the quality? Other functionality? The takeaway for the exam is you need to be able to draw a customer preference map. And my advice was, make sure if you're asked to do that, you need to label everything. Second, you need to be able to, given information, discern whether a company has a cost leadership strategy or a product differentiation strategy. Okay. Finally, we just started on re-engineering, and the quality control is totally different between the two factories. Okay. A special quality control area with this guy here, wow, out of control. All right, so that's the difference. All right, that's the difference. Okay, so the last point of this first hour is re-engineering is about change. And if we go to chapter 13 says, wow, there's these 4 different types of re-engineering. There's a very radical one, but a lot of the others are minor changes. Okay. 1 out of those 4 types of re-engineering, that is innovation change, is the radical re-engineering, where you move the factory from this type to this type. That's what we call radical. The example I gave you where we made little changes to how someone does their soldering, that is not radical re-engineering. That's just a little process change. Okay, so have a break. When you come back, we're going to move on to the balanced scorecard. Okay? Thank you.
Guys, one short announcement for internet.